Good evening. This is the Carver Planning Board meeting of March 18th, 2014 at 7 o'clock. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, under new business tonight, we could start there. We could, see, we have receipt of plans. Jamie Emerson, Form A for 85 Center Street.
Counselor Cirque's here, I assume representing Jamie. If you recall, Rich and Jamie came in front of you about this notion of a rear lot, not having enough land, not meeting the bylaw. But I think he's happy to report that they did get their variance and that this is the receipt of the plans for an consideration of endorsement in 2 weeks.
That's right.
I steal all your thunder all the
That's
time.
right.
It's
I have
amazing.
nothing much more to say. Richard M. Cirque for Jamie Emerson. This was a rear lot that required a variance from the zoning board. We were able to obtain it. Since the land that is to be attached to the property that Mr. Emerson already owns is in Chapter 61A, we have secured and recorded the waiver of the town's right of first refusal from the Board of Selectmen. And Mr. Emerson has paid the rollback tax, so we'll be getting a partial release from the Board of Assessors. And all that's left, the deed has already been signed, and for the 54 some odd thousand square feet that are being added to the property, all that needs to be done at this point is for the A&R to ultimately be endorsed, and for the lender to sign a partial release on the piece that's being acquired. But that is about it. I'll be glad to be back here in 2 weeks if such is the will of the board to have you endorse it. Are there any questions about it?
I have no further questions. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, through you, no, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I appreciate you coming in front of us
Sure.
before to kind of give us a concept of what you guys were thinking of doing. I think it's a great use of the property. Jamie's done a wonderful job with the new development there and the cleaning up of the lot and everything, so
Yeah.
I don't have a problem, and I would make a motion to endorse this Form A at this time because everything's pretty cut and dry. So that'd be my motion, Mr. Chair.
I'll second that.
Can we do that tonight
Well,
with the members that we have here?
I did not know you were gonna do that, and I only put down receipt of plans on
Oh,
the
that's right.
agenda.
All right.
Your policy's always been to do this, so I can always put both on there to leave it in the future, to leave that option open.
Well, it's, seeing that, the open meeting law issue, I would draw my motion at this time then,
Sorry about that.
just for
Counselor.
that reason, but I had no problem on moving forward with it.
No.
It's been brought.
I appreciate that. I wasn't here to ask you to deviate from
Yeah, I
your policy.
understand it, it's just that I was
Yeah.
trying to expedite a little
Yeah.
bit, seeing that it's been brought in front of us before, and, we followed it pretty good, so.
I
And
can
Jamie
tell-
will be able to come back, or will we have to have
I'll
him?
be, yeah, I'll be here 2 weeks from tonight.
Okay.
Great.
I can tell you also, just for purposes of information, that the 54,000 some odd square feet will be conveyed with severe restrictions on what can be done back there. And also the variance that was granted by the Board of Appeals carries conditions as well. So all of that will operate on the entire tract of land, but
Wonderful,
stick to your policy and the open meeting law, and I'll be back in 2 weeks.
wonderful,
Right.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would you mind maybe skipping over item B and go to C, since we have a few people here? Would that be all right?
Sure, yeah, because we don't have everybody here. All right, under old business, we have a discussion and possible endorsement of 80 Makepeace Form A Federal Road.
You've seen this many times, you've approved the solar panels on this project, and now they want to subdivide, and we have the.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is James Kane with the 80 Makepeace Company. With me this evening is obviously our counsel and Sarah Stearns from Beals and Thomas. Not too many weeks ago, we were before you to first brief you on and then secure your permit for the solar facility. The next logical step would be to create the actual parcel. Again, it's consistent with your bylaw, so we hope that you'll see fit to endorse.
I see no problem with it. Anybody else have anything to say?
And the only condition that was a problem before was, before the fire department, right? And that was,
All resolved, sir, all resolved.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to endorse.
second.
Second, have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Unity, thanks so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Did you want to sign the Mylar?
Yes, we got to sign the Mylar, and since we have some time on our hands tonight before 7:30.
We'll sign the Mylar right now, then.
Yeah, just the Mylar, and that way we can do the hard copies later, if you don't mind.
Thank you very much.
Counsel, you're gonna take the Mylar with you?
I will.
Thank you. Where is it, Jeff? Right over there. I forgot. Bruce, all you gotta do is the Mylar right now. We can do the hard copies after the meeting. Should put the date on it.
Yeah, when you grab it. Or could you just take a peek at it?
Yeah.
Just for some reason, I normally look at that. Thank you. Jack was late.
Just make sure the date was on it.
Well, I guess we could go on to other business, because it isn't 7:15 yet. So we have planning board notes. Anybody have anything to say this evening?
I'm good.
Planning board members?
I'm good, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Kevin?
I'm all set this time.
All right, I don't have anything tonight. Planners notes. Jack always has something to say.
I do. Just so it's not a surprise to anyone, though I think it's the best unkept secret, the town is suffering from some severe budget constraints. The town administrator has met with all the department heads several times about some of the concepts he's dealing with, though I have not seen any specifics at all, about reorganization, consolidation, layoffs possibly, reduction in hours. I'm just quoting him here. And it's the same thing he said at the selectmen's meeting, and possibly furloughs to try to meet the budget that he has to get to. In the school department, it's probably even more severe from what I hear. So, he is planning on having his budget, at least in concept, to the selectmen on April 1st on what those things may look like. And he has promised, obviously, to talk to us as department heads before he does that. So, I mean, April 1st is only 2 weeks away, so. Coincidentally, April 1st is your normal business meeting, and we're gonna need to have that in the basement, so make sure that Fran and Fran know that. Let's see, I am meeting next week with the new owners of the Whitworth property. I met today with a potential developer for a small 4-lot subdivision, possibly 5 lots on High Street. It looks like the Les Cloudman parcel, which is next to Anthony Alange's building, is moving along. They have a signed lease now, for a user, not with Les. They have a purchase and sale with Les. And they've hired Joe Webby Engineering to develop that. So things are moving, and you see, it seems like every meeting we have construction going on and development going on, so it's a wonderful thing for the town, and we'll keep moving forward. The last thing is, if you could look in your packet under G, and speaking of precast development tonight, MBO Precast, as you know, is on Marion Drive. And as you know, in the lot in front, they store all their precast materials, or, all the stuff that they've gone through. They have entered into a lease to purchase with Aggregate Industries, which is just right next to them. And they would like to move all those precast materials to that lot. And the brother, SLT Construction, would like to have 6 bins for building materials. So he did a sketch here that you'll see, and I'm just looking for some direction. And you'll see a berm. He's proposing a landscape berm that would separate the MBO property and this leased property. He has an erosion control barrier. And then all the storage would be, if you will, to the west of the access road, which is the existing access road. So he wanted to know what he would need to do with the planning board. I think at minimum, it's a minor modification. I mean, we're not building any structures here. I know that when SLT did their bins, and there's about 10 of them, I went there the other day, it was a minor modification. And I know when MBO went to move their materials to the front, it was a minor modification. So, he's looking for some direction. I told him I'd talk to Jeff tomorrow about what you want him to do.
Mr. Chair, through you. Question that I had was, well, a couple questions. Number one, what type of material are we storing?
On the,
And heights and that end of it. I think when we did it with him, he came in with, what he was gonna use and height requirements that we set in place when we did the minor modification. The only other question, I know that me and you talked about this a little bit, was where this is a lease to purchase site, how can it be a minor modification? I've been struggling with that for a week.
I think people lease property all the time. He could build a house, he could build a facility under a lease, as long as he has permission from the
I'm
property.
just having a problem with,
To answer your question, Will,
Industrial,
if you see
commercial,
under general notes number 2, it says stockpiles to consist of clean processed materials such as crushed stone and dense graded crushed stone.
There's only gonna be 2 materials then, at this time?
Well, again, I got this yesterday. I am not gonna speak for them, Kevin. that's why it's certainly, at minimum, a minor modification, so he could be here to answer those.
Right.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I think we need to know what this erosion control barrier, what it's gonna look like, and probably what the landscaping berm, the height, and what it's made of.
We could, if you're in that direction, we could have them come under the minor modification, and if, after they answer your questions, you think it's a little out of whack, then you could just bump it up to the next level.
I think that's a possibility.
Because that's what a minor modification is.
Right.
You make a determination, okay, this isn't that bad, the
Right.
impacts are minimal.
Yeah, I mean, if they came and they spoke to us about this and we could ask them some questions, I guess we did determine if it was a minor modification or not. Seems to me that since we're putting no drainage in here, there's no pavement, it seems like it could be a minor modification.
I think that'll come as, once they purchase the property, and I think that they'll have a better plan at that point of what they wanna do. There was, and I don't wanna misspeak, maybe a potential for those other two properties that they own up front in front of their businesses to be sold, that one property that's left to be sold, and maybe that's why they're entering
It
into
is,
this.
he's very close to a
Which is
deal.
great. I mean, that's more tax dollars, more development up there,
Right.
so I think it's a good thing.
I believe the user uses a lot of water too, which may be of interest to you.
It always is. Water's good.
So I will tell him, for now, minor modification to be determined for April 1st.
I see there's a pond there, is there any wetlands in back there with this?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I'm gonna have to have more information. Okay, I'm good. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
7:15, thank you.
Oh, it's beyond 7:15, okay. All right, at 7:15, we have a public hearing for Marketplace Square LLC, 124 through 128 Main Street, special permits, apartments above commercial and minor modification. Discussion and possible vote. So, since this is a public hearing, we have a public hearing notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw, the Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on March 18th, 2014, at 7:15 PM in the Carver Town Hall Meeting Room 1 on the application of Marketplace Square LLC, requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 2230, 2270, and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw located at 124 through 128 Main Street in Carver, Mass. To allow 9 accessory dwellings of units above a commercial development. Any person interested in wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the town clerk's office and may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey, Chair. Published Carver Reporter, published dates February 28th, 2014, and March 7th, 2014.
Mr. Chair, the reason you don't see anybody here for this is you'll see in the next sheet, they're asking for a 4-week continuance. I can briefly tell you why without violating anything. They have a failed septic system, and the Board of Health made that known to them. They just bought the property. I've met with them twice with the Board of Health agent, and we're working on it. And there's a little dispute, if you will, between the former owner and the new owner about that septic system. Typically, 90% of the time, you have to have a Title V to exchange property, but this property was bought with cash. So that was not necessary. So, I think that, I think I've heard no one, obviously no one's here. This is a good idea, I think. We've talked about it many times.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, we gotta get through this, and I think it's a private issue right now, but it'll be coming back to you.
Do you have a date for the continuance,
I
Chad?
think Kathy does, April 15th at 7:15.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing for April 15th at 7:15.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
And it's not 7:30 yet, so we'll go to the approval of the minutes of February 18th, 2014, and March 4th, 2014.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve for discussion February 18th, 2014.
So we have a motion to accept the minutes of February 18th, 2014, approve the minutes.
Discussion.
You have a,
You need a second.
I second that.
you have a motion and a second?
Mr. Chair, just a spelling or clarification for Kathy, if you would. Item C, where it says, "It will be carved." There's no D.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
the D. Other than that, that's all I had, just for,
I got it, wait, Kathy.
that's all I had.
Very good. So we have a motion and a second to approve. Those in favor?
Aye,
Aye. Okay, so we'll go on to
March 4th, Mr.
March
Chair.
4th.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the March 4th as written. Good
We have
job,
a
Kathy.
motion. We just need a second.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Do we have any correspondence?
We don't. We can go to B if you'd like. I don't think you're gonna
Do it.
make a decision right now anyway, but if you, do you mind? We'll
No,
to-
go ahead. Yeah, let's go to B, which were review of planning board fee schedules.
And at the same discussion we had at the department head meeting, last week with the town administrator about the budget and the shape we're in, he has asked every department to review their fee schedule and specifically how it relates to, you know, our peers across the southeastern Mass mostly. And so we started to do that, and just for your FYI and the public's, the fee schedule has not changed since February of 2008, which is quite a while ago, 6 years ago. And in your packet, and I know I emailed this, I had a comparative filing fees that was sent to me by one of my colleagues. Now, this is the North Shore. And then in your packet, our intern did the surrounding communities for the ones he could get, as well as, and just today, I got the Rochester one, which is in the back. My take on this, and I'd like you to look at it some more, and I have reached out to Kingston and Plimpton for their fee schedules, and I don't have them yet. We're pretty up there. Our fees are still, I thought after 6 years, everyone would catch up, and I was here, I think, Will, I don't know, were you here back then, Bruce, when we did this? the fee?
I've only been here a short time. No, I didn't have anything to do
How
with the
short
fee.
is it gonna be? But anyway, we bumped them up pretty hard back then, I do remember that. And what I'm reading, unless you guys see something different, at least for the time being, is that most towns still haven't caught up to us, some have, but not many. So, I don't know where you wanna go with this, I can keep analyzing this, I can get the other towns to complete it. I know the town administrator wanted, something done by April first, which, excuse me, happens to be your next meeting.
Mhm.
If on April first, if you wanna table this, if on April first you feel you do see some, places where you wanna raise these, then it will require a public hearing.
Well, since Chad and Rosemary aren't here with us tonight, maybe we should just table this. I think I'd take a look at, if you want to talk to some other towns and see what their fees are, and we can kind of look at it then,
Okay.
make a decision. I mean, would it be too late then? I mean,
No,
if
I
we
don't
would've-
think so. I mean, you have to have a hearing anyway. I think what I'd like to do, though, is if you feel compelled to table it, is at least by April first, make a decision on whether you wanna have a hearing or not.
Yeah,
So, cause that will take some time, so now we're
Sure.
probably talking the first meeting in May, you know what I mean? So, and I think that would certainly meet the budget deadline, but, I was surprised, I thought that we would be at least equal and maybe a little behind, and we're not. And maybe it's the economy, you know, since 2008, everything went down, and I know why the board back then did it, is because development was hot.
let's go,
Yep.
yeah.
It was.
So we were a little ahead of our time, so to
One could
speak.
say that.
Well,
Yeah.
at the time, if I remember correctly, things were moving pretty good.
Mm.
We had quite a good potential for some development, and there was a lot of discussion of some good development, so.
Right.
I
All
just-
right.
I just hope that it's not hindering us now. Some of our fees are, as you guys go through this and digest it all.
Mm.
We're pretty high compared to our neighbors.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at this and,
Yeah,
before the next meeting.
I
then we
sent
can-
you these electronically.
Right.
Yep.
Except for Kevin. I think we have to talk to you after the meeting about your email, because I think we have a old email.
Okay.
So, okay, you're gonna
Unless you
table.
have Comcast, 'cause,
All right, so, we have now does Rosemary have to be here for the 7:30?
Yes, so I'm gonna
Still waiting for that.
suggest you recess. I'm done, all your business is done, and I'll call her, I have my cell phone, she wanted me to call her. Can I explain to the public, if you don't mind?
Please, go ahead.
This is a special permit, so we need 4 members. Chad just had surgery, he's definitely not gonna be here. Rosemary was on her way, she thought she'd be here by 7:30. So, there's 2 things. One is I'm gonna suggest you recess, but as the applicant, you have the choice to continue the hearing or start proceedings once Rosemary comes here, knowing that you need 4 positive votes for approval. So, think about that while we're in recess, I think is the best.
make a motion to take a 10-minute recess.
Second that.
Have a motion and second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Should have told you under planner's notes, I'm gonna be a grandfather.
We're on? Okay.
Congratulations.
My daughter announced it, my first.
Congratulations.
Proud of you.
All right, we're back from recess.
After that, though.
Hanlon's here. So we'll go to the 7:30 public hearing for Shorey Precast Concrete, 334 Tremont Street, special permit and site plan review, and discussion and possible vote. I
You
didn't
gonna
read
move
the public
forward?
hearing yet, did I?
Move forward? Okay. No, you have not read that.
All right, public hearing notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw, the Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 18th, 2014, at 7:30 in the Carver Town Hall, Meeting Room 1, on the application of Shorey Precast Concrete, requesting site plan approval and a special permit pursuant to sections 2230, 3100, 3600, and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw for a property located at 334 Tremont Street in Carver, Mass. Plans prepared by GAF Engineering Company Incorporated, dated February 13th, 2014. Show the construction of one manufacturing building and one office building with outdoor display for said development. Any persons interested in wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the town clerk's office and may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey Chair, published dates February 28th, 2014, and March 7th, 2014, in the Carver Reporter. Good evening.
Good evening.
What do you have for us tonight?
Okay, I'm Bill Madden from GAF Engineering. With me is Paul Matos, he's engineer from our office also that has been working on the project. And we also have some representatives from Shorey Precast with any, available for any questions you might have as the proceeding continues on. Shorey Precast and Carver Landing LLC hired us to design a precast concrete manufacturing facility on the property that they own off of JB's Bridge Road in Carver. JB's Bridge Road is located off of Route 58 and is partially, and also contains a site of Cape Cod Ready Mix. There's an existing concrete plant on the property that's owned by Carver Landing LLC, and they're seeking to relocate an existing precast concrete manufacturing facility to the site. It accommodates their existing operation quite well, and they felt that it would be a good opportunity for them in the town to relocate in an area such as this. So what we have done is we filed a site plan for site plan review as required under the bylaw. Also, we're looking for a special permit for the Water Resource Protection District, as we're gonna have more than 10,000 square feet of impervious surface on the property. So those are the two major things that we're here for, is the site plan review for the structure and for the work to take place in the Water Resource Protection District. The schedule of use in the bylaw allows manufacturing subject to a special permit issued by the planning board. So I think that's what really brings us before you tonight. So I'll just briefly explain the project and go from there. Here's Route 58 here, and this is the access road into the site on JB's Bridge Road. This 9-acre area right here is a portion of the 50-acre parcel of land. You can see that the property consists of one existing metal building, which is to remain on the site and is shown over here on the proposed plan versus the existing plan. And the photograph also illustrates or indicates quite a bit of other material that was once on the site. This is like a 2008, 2009 photo. Since that time, Carver Landing has removed quite a bit of that debris and iron that's accumulated over the years from the prior owner. And essentially now it's reasonably cleaned up, and it's essentially a disturbed, previously developed site that we're seeking to redevelop. The redevelopment scheme calls for the construction of a precast concrete manufacturing facility. It's a building that's roughly 160 feet in length, 82 and a half feet wide, and is really a metal building that sits over a pretty large crane rail. There's a crane rail that will extend out beyond the building on each end by about 99 feet. So when they manufacture concrete products inside, they're easily transported to the exterior of the building after the pouring and the curing activity has taken place. So it's truly a facility to manufacture the precast products. They have an entire catalog full of the things. It can range from manholes, catch basins, septic tanks, distribution box, electrical transformer vaults, any of the typical things that you might see in a precast concrete product catalog. We're showing a couple of, we're retaining the existing building, the existing shop. It will continue to be used as a maintenance building for equipment. We show two driveways entering the site. One of them comes up to the office building. It's a building that's proposed to be 60 feet by 35 feet, roughly 2,100 square feet. That's the office building where the office staff will operate out of. It's not a retail facility. It's strictly wholesale. Shorey Precast they'll have 4 vehicles that deliver the product to various sites. And typically they'll run, I don't know, a truck may make as many as 4 round trips a day to the plant, to a site, to the plant, to the site, and what have you. So roughly about 16 vehicle trips with the equipment taking product off the site. It'll employ about 19 or 20 individuals as well, so they bring a pretty good workforce to the area. In addition to the main building, we're showing as dotted a future expansion of 7,500 square feet. I think that as time moves on that we may be necessary to add additional square footage for the production activities and what have you. So we've shown that on the plan as a dotted area, just so that you know that that's what might be forthcoming in the future. We're also showing the equipment and vehicle circulation area in the front of the building. That's to get the concrete to the site, to just maneuver around the area. So we won't be adding any further impervious surfaces to the site when the 7,500 square foot expansion would occur. We provided parking across the front of the manufacturing facility. We have some also across the front of the office building. It's a little bit more over here for the maintenance garage. And one of the things that we are looking for is a little bit of relief on parking. Under your zoning bylaw, it's pretty heavy parking for industrial use. I think it's somewhere on the lines of, it requires 77 spaces, but it's like 3 per 250 square feet, or 1 space per employee. We're asking for relief to that portion of the bylaw in that we would like to provide the parking spaces for each employee. Site actually shows 33 spaces. We do have 19, 20 employees. The parking requirement for the office building is for 8. We're complying with that. We meet the 8 for the office building, and also for the maintenance garage, it's 1 per 2 people that would work there. So there's 1 employee that would be handling most of that maintenance work. So we felt that there was adequate parking to service the needs of the employer as well as to accommodate any visitors to the site, which there should not be many. So that's one of the areas that we're looking for a little bit of relief, and we asked that in our application. We also are looking for some relief on the landscape buffer. We do show a landscape buffer, but we have to be 100 feet from the residential agricultural zone, and we have agricultural activities that occur here, so we've tried to comply with most of the landscaping requirements for that, but that's another area that we were seeking a bit of relief as well. There's a berm designed over here, and there's some vegetation designed on on the other side of the maintenance building, as well as some plantings that will go behind the parking lot and parking lot plantings. It's, you know, I think there was a few comments raised by Fuss and O'Neill on the plantings, and I think we're gonna work through that rather readily. Another thing that we're looking for is relief on the bicycle rack. There's a requirement that a bicycle rack also be provided. We just felt that due to the heavy industrial nature of the activities on the site and the Route 58 being out there, no bikeway, that really might not be appropriate in this instance, so we were just asking for relief on that as well. All this work is taking place in the Industrial A zoning district. So that's what we have somewhat designed, have designed for the site. These brown areas are gonna be areas that we're gonna use for product storage. So once the material is manufactured, cured, pulled outside the building, usually they build up some kind of inventory based upon the demand that's placed on the company. So you might see some septic tanks, distribution boxes, manholes, catch basins, leaching galleys, things of that nature, stockpiled in the gravel surface parking lot that we're looking to place over here around the site essentially. We have complete vehicular access around the buildings, all the buildings for fire department use. We had a technical review committee meeting last Thursday. We've received a lot of great feedback from the town departments, and the review consultant provided some good insight on a few other items as well. So we're in the process of working through those details. We hope to have them complete in the next week or so, and we'd forward them to Jack. One of the things that did come up during the review process was fire protection on the building, and we've had some communications with the fire department since that meeting, and their desire is to have us put a 20,000-gallon cistern water tank underground and a suction riser for them to take water out for firefighting purposes. And that's what we have shown to go in this area. Would negate the need to put an automatic sprinkler system in the building, so we don't have much of a problem doing that. We think it's a good idea. As far as the utilities servicing the site, on-site septic system, we're gonna pull all three buildings together to a septic tank that'll be located, I think, in this area. Leaching field would be located over there, so all three of our buildings would be serviced by one new common septic system. The existing septic system that's in place for the garage, that will be removed per DEP standards, and once again connected to the system for the facility as a whole. We also will be providing a drinking water well. I think it's gonna be over in this area, a drinking water well for the occupants of the building. That well would likely be a bedrock drilled well, something in order of magnitude, I think in the 300-foot range, being drilled down into bedrock. Won't be using an overburden water supply in this case. Just think that the reliability would be a little better for us, and then there would not necessarily be any conflicts with any other users by using a bedrock well as opposed to an overburden well. Drainage will all be, and I'll let Paul speak on that a little bit, but all the drainage will be retained on site and infiltrated, so we're going to provide quite a bit of infiltration into the ground. That'll achieve some of the goals that the Water Resource Protection Bylaw seeks to achieve. So that's kind of the thumbnail sketch on what is going on, or what is proposed on the site. I don't know if Paul, you interested in hearing just a little on the drainage, or?
Please, I'd like them to.
I think it's, let me just, before I have Paul talk about the drainage, we're also subject to Conservation Commission jurisdiction on the site. We have, not only do we have the 100-foot buffer zone, but we also have the 65-foot no activity zone that Concom, the bylaw calls for. So we're gonna be seeking a waiver for some activities within that 65-foot zone. And those activities are really restricted to the landscaping in the front and the driveway entrances into the site. From an alternatives point of view, it's really the only way that we can get into the property, so, you know, we prepared a waiver request. We're going before them tomorrow night to discuss that, as well as the notice of intent filing. You know, we're in excess of 650 feet away from Crane Brook, which is way over here. All of our activities, for the most part, are gonna be away, more than 100 feet away from the adjacent wetland areas, and those being the cranberry bogs. And, you know, if you go out there and you look at the site, you see that it's really kind of a basin. So everything around it from the south and the east and the west kind of all drains down. There's berms around the site, so there's really not much opportunity for stormwater to leave the site or stormwater to enter the site. So we've taken that into consideration with the design. I think Paul did a pretty good job with drainage on this one. So with that, I'll just let Paul.
Sell yourself.
Pardon me?
If you said sell yourself.
If I must. But Paul, if you want to explain it, you can.
All right, basically on the drainage system, we divided it into 4 drainage areas.
Want to show him, Paul, with that? Yeah.
4 drainage areas is
Paul,
gonna be,
could you introduce yourself, please?
Paul Maddles with GAF Engineering. The 4 drainage areas is located,
Can't get him out of the way, can you?
I'm just trying, I'm
got-
helping him out.
we got an infiltration system here consisting of 500-gallon dry wells. And basically that system there is gonna take all the roof runoff from the manufacturing building and the office. Downspouts will be connected to roof drain leaders that will be piped directly into those underground infiltrations, directing clean roof runoff directly into the ground. Our next system, which will take care of the stuff that's draining to the west, I guess I'll use
Sorry
this
about
plan.
that.
I think it was actually easier to use the photo.
Do you like the photo better? All right, sorry.
So on the west side of the building and the parking lot and the storage area here is all draining by overland flow to a water quality swale here that drains into the detention pond located there. That detention pond right now is designed with a riser pipe that's connected to the existing drainage system on Jabez Bridge Road. That system is still being investigated to determine the exact lateral extent of where that water goes to. And then once we determine that, we'll revise our plan accordingly and modify our detention basin as needed. This portion of the parking lot here is drained to a unit called the First Defense Unit. It's similar to a storm scepter that you might seen on other projects. It treats the water, then it discharges into the detention basin. The parking lot in front of the manufacturing building and the office and a portion of the access road there drains to deep sump hood catch basins, which drain into an oil grit separator and then eventually into another underground infiltration system consisting of the 500 leaching galleys again. And then the remaining land, which will be all this product storage area around here, all drains by overland flow into this infiltration basin. That it's in the process of being modified based on some comments from Sean from Fuss and O'Neill about providing a sediment forebay, so we're gonna be just modifying that detention pond or infiltration basin to provide a sediment forebay prior to discharging into that infiltration basin. That's basically the drainage system as it's designed today.
Peter, I went downstairs to make a copy of something, but Bill, did you comment on the well and septic?
I mentioned the well.
I heard the well, the septic.
The septic, yeah, the septic is, leaching field is here, the tanks are gonna be here, and all 3 of the buildings would be tied together to the septic tank. So,
Thank you.
So, so Sean, you're still looking at this, or have you had a chance to look
No,
at this?
I reviewed the plans, so we reviewed the drainage report, and, you know, I think you have a copy of my report in your packets. Most of the concerns or questions we had were revolved around what's gonna be the condition of the site at the end of the project, and, you know, if you look at the drawings, it might be difficult to tell what's going to be treated with loam and seed or stabilized and planted and what might be left to as exposed soils, similar to what's there today. And I thought what was helpful when, I didn't quite hear it explained today as it was explained to me, but the product's being stored outside in some of these light brown areas you see around the building and the parking areas, storing products there. My big concern about the exposed soil areas, especially at this site, has always been dust control, making sure that there's adequate pretreatment before water and trucks driving around and get dust into these systems which rely upon infiltration. So you want to make sure that the soil pores don't clog. So my comments are on the drainage. I didn't have any issues with the approach. What I've asked them to do, and they've been very receptive, is incorporate some additional pretreatment measures into their plan. Make sure that the water that's going into the basins won't clog the soil pores. So, and we had some comments, as Bill said, about the landscaping design. The only one, this got a little bit of a rise at the meeting, unfortunately, at the TRC. But this is really the landscaping comments about meeting your regulations and about restoring some denuded areas on the site to help stabilize soils and protect from wind erosion, precipitation, and whatnot. So overall, didn't really have any major issues with the design that was presented. And Bill, if you could elaborate on the septic, the plans have not yet been submitted to the Board of Health, is that correct?
That's correct, they have not yet been
We
submitted.
were looking at a system size, what, 450 gallons a day, or,
It's a pretty small,
Pretty small based on the-
septic system, yeah.
I don't know if you're designing for 30 employees or 20 or whatever it is, but,
I haven't reviewed the plan, so I don't know what the
Okay.
criteria is.
well, my guess is it's gonna be a pretty small septic system on the site, but that was one of the comments that was brought up at the TRC, that those applications, when they're submitted, are gonna have to obviously comply with the Board of Health's regulations, so. I don't have any other major issues with the design as it was presented. I don't have an issue with the limiting the amount of parking. To be honest, I'd prefer less impervious area that's not needed. I'd actually rather trade off some of the impervious areas for stabilizing some of the roadways that are in and around the site that are not durable surface. So there's dirt roads there. I think some folks may have visited this site during our last TRC site walk a couple years ago now.
For Reed Custom Soil.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a pretty dusty place, so that was my major concern. There's one access road that goes by the infiltration basin. My concern is about truck traffic and causing dust, and that in turn going into the basin, so.
Okay. Thank you, Sean.
Yep, you're welcome.
You want me to go through the letters, the comments from the
Yeah,
department?
please.
Bill touched most of these already, or Sean did. Fire department's fine with the access. We did have a rather lively discussion about the about the fire protection. It even got livelier after the TRC, but that's for another day. And they were, at the time of the TRC, the fire department felt compelled that sprinkler system, fire suppression system was necessary, and I'll get to that in 1 second. In that they're gonna have to do all the internal fire protection devices that are required by the building code. You'll see a second letter from Sean actually on Monday, yesterday, where they now feel, due to the nature of the building, it's precast concrete, the building is gonna be all cast iron, right?
Metal building.
Metal building. And so that combination, they felt comfortable with, only because of this type of use and this type of structure, that a sprinkler system is not necessary. However, they do want the 20,000-gallon water tank, which Bill talked about.
Let me just correct that, it was Deputy Chief Germain.
It,
Yeah, I was getting,
yes, it was Deputy Chief. I call him Chief.
call him Sean.
It wasn't Sean.
Oh, sorry, Sean.
I was gonna say,
Or
another job.
maybe that's a compliment, Sean. The Board of Health, they had satisfactory perk tests. They will need to approve, all the final septic plans. And I wanted to talk about number 3. All efforts need to be made to work out bathroom and tight tank requirements with the plumbing department. I assume you're working on those?
Yes.
And then that Sean's gonna be reviewing all the DEP stormwater and Carver stormwater regs. With conservation, it's pretty much for standard, to make sure they use the Cornell Atlas, that there is the 100-foot buffer zone around the resource area we have to protect. And I should say, you know, I prefaced this meeting because I was visited by, I think, all three of the abutters. That, you know, they're concerned, they're all cranberries, and they're concerned about their livelihoods here. And I prefaced the meeting, and I talked to Sean about this, and Bill, that we make sure that we protect that resource in this design, the design of the well, design of the septic, and design of the runoff. And I'm gonna ask Sean to comment on that a little bit when I'm done. But that's kind of the nature. Sarah also is encouraging low-impact design, which is in your regulations, and I think they're starting to make some inroads on that. We have some natural swales at some of the pre-treatment that Sean's talking about because of the dusty nature of the site. She did have some comments about the landscaping within the 100-foot buffer, that even though you are showing some wetland plants, make sure that they survive, you know, because wetland plants obviously want wet, and make sure they're either irrigated or the plants are changed. And I think, other than some of the normal comments about Water Resource Protection Act and natural heritage and the 100-foot buffer, that's taken care of. My comments are next. We had a rather lively discussion about Jabez Bridge Road, which says it on the plans. And in my opinion, and I asked them at the TRC whether they're gonna subdivide this or lease it, and they're leasing it. So therefore, there's no need to have a discussion about the status of Jabez Bridge Road. And I think some of you have been down this road on another site, I think it was off of Rochester Road, if I remember, or Indian Street, I can't remember the street, about Jabez Bridge Road and the status of it, and, you know, does it meet town requirements? This is a driveway, it's a driveway. And I know that I mentioned at the TRC, bringing up Reed Custom Soil, we had this exact same conversation about the ownership of that driveway and to make sure they have the rights to do this. I asked them about increased truck traffic. Could you comment on that, please? Just how
Can
many
I?
trips? Yes, please.
Yeah. On the truck trips, Shorey Precast has 4 trucks that they make deliveries with their product. On a busy day, it might take between 2 and 2.5 hours per truck to do a round trip. So that on your normal 8-hour day would be 4 round trips per truck, times 4 trucks would be 16 vehicle trips for the trucking element of the operation. Added to that would be the vehicle trips for the employees. So if we had, 20 employees on the site, we would be looking at somewhere in the order of magnitude of 36, 40 vehicle trips a day, 16 of which would be truck traffic trips. So that's what the expectation is. They're the people that do the deliveries because they're the ones that have the equipment that has the horsepower to lift the heavy precast off the truck and set it where it needs to be set on the site. Most flatbeds that a contractor might think he shows up with would not have those capabilities. So that's why there was not gonna be much truck traffic here at all, just about 16.
And what I was leading to, I'm not so worried about the access onto Tremont Street. I'm more worried, the reason I put the comment in there is about the integrity of the driveway. And as you know, the proximity to the cranberry bog, I wanna make sure that integrity is upheld. And I talked to Sean, and he thinks when we go out on the site visit, we might be able to take a look at that. In landscaping, oh, okay, you wanna show us?
Well, we just took a couple of pictures of it just to give you an idea of what it is. It's 24-foot wide pavement and a 33-foot wide layout. I mean, it is laid out. The layout was signed by the planning board in 1994, somewhere along those lines. I researched it a little bit.
Okay.
But you can see the two trucks on the road. They pass easily. At 58, it's not problematic there. There's a couple of different movements that they're making. And here's how it looks with really just the wide open intersection of Route 58 and Jabies Bridge Road.
Okay.
So
Yep.
it's curbed and what have you on both sides, and relatively flat in nature.
So you're gonna be sharing this road with the concrete, Cape Cod Concrete in back, or,
Yes.
okay.
I also urge them to do low impact design, which they are. I also wanted them to take another look at the entranceways, regarding landscaping. I know that's always important to the planning board, and the office building. Now, having said that, the entranceway and the office building will not be seen by the public. I mean, who's gonna see it are the truck drivers and the employees. Nevertheless, I thought that they should be making some kind of statement that this is a quality project in the town of Carver. I also asked them, once they've done their landscaping revision, to maybe show us the visual, what it's gonna look like as a cross-section. You've asked other applicants to do that. I also had the comment about protecting the surrounding uses with this project. And then we're off to Sean, which I think he's done. I did wanna, I had a couple other things. The parking, I did go over the parking requirements with Bill. They're pretty high. I think in this case, it's not that necessary to meet that maximum level. He does indicate on the plan some reserved area for parking if needed. So they can meet the bylaw, but I think it'd be a waste of money and of pervious surface to try to do that. And lastly, did you have a site visit with the Conservation Commission today?
No, we did not. I think our site visit will be scheduled at tomorrow night's meeting.
Oh,
I think it might have been somebody else from our office that had a meeting with Concom. I know that
I don't
Kevin had a meeting with Conservation earlier in the day today.
Oh, okay.
So it might have been with them.
And Sean, are you comfortable with that the resources are protected around this site?
Yes, as I mentioned, there's still some modifications that need to be made, but, I think at the meeting, they agreed to make some of the changes we talked about. Some of them sound simple, like storing a stockpile within 100 feet of a wetland, well, in this case, a bog, things like that. Even though they're separated by a berm, to uphold the spirit of the bylaws, get the, things like that out of those setbacks. So that's some of the measures, that we've asked for and that they were receptive to. We'll add that low-impact development, reduction in parking is a low-impact development practice, so consider that as well. It's a way to minimize the amount of stormwater runoff and promote recharge, so.
Good point.
I did point out a few things here. There was a little bit of LID on this project. It's not always obvious, but,
Does anybody on the board have any questions? Go ahead.
Mr. Hunt, through you, Mr. Hunt. I realize it's not gonna really be open to the public, but will there be any designated, or do they need a designated handicap spot?
They absolutely do.
And there are two on the site, and they're both located right here next to the office building, right there.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I was gonna give you a chance. Anyways, couple things, just for, I guess when we get out there, I'll have a better look at it, but, snow storage area, number one. Number two, where it being a precast, manufacturing plant, I would assume that you have some type of sand and stone to making concrete, no? Can you clarify?
concrete will be delivered from the concrete plant next door in trucks and brought
Perfect.
right over, so there won't be the normal need to.
I was worried about the erosion, sand blowing, that type of stuff because of the bogs. I think for now I'm okay. That's all I had, just the typical stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if it was just a storage area, or if you were actually gonna manufacture the stuff there, but you are gonna manufacture it on site by using the concrete from Cape Cod Concrete.
That's great.
That's pretty good. I like that. If there aren't any other questions, I'll open this up to anyone in the public. And I don't see anybody coming forward, so
How much time do you need, Bill?
Paul doesn't need that much time. A couple of weeks, I think, should be adequate. I don't think, I think that we can complete our things pretty quickly. How much time? Well, that'd be 2 weeks from tonight.
It would be 2 weeks from tonight is the next meeting. I can envision us having a site visit early next week. You'd have to make sure you revised your plans and that the fire department and myself and Sean, I think, and all the departments really are okay with your revisions and your responses. So that's a quick turnaround. If you want it, I think they'll accommodate you. You looking at me or the?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the site. Sorry. I was sleeping.
no, it's fine if it's,
You do it with
if
your eyes open.
it's workable.
You're in the Navy, that's all.
Perhaps, I don't know how much time Sean really needs to look at the work, but he's always been pretty good on the turnaround. Whatever the drop dead date is for us to provide the plans, we'll certainly do that.
April 1st at
Is that agreeable with you,
7:30.
Sean? Do you
7:15.
think you can work within that schedule? Yep.
April 1st, 7:15.
All right, so let's do it for 2 weeks.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing to April 1st at 7:15.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And,
Site visit.
site visit.
Can we do Tuesday
Hold on.
or Wednesday? Tuesday for turnaround. I can't do Monday.
I think I have,
I could do Monday at 6 maybe.
Oh, that's right, we have longer
Yeah.
daylight out.
I
That would work for me.
Monday's no good for me.
Oh, that's right. Tuesday, I can do at 5. I can't do at 6.
Yeah, I should be able to make it by then. I'm good with that.
Tuesday at 5? How does that work with everyone else on the board?
I might have to leave early, but at 5 o'clock it works. How long do we anticipate it taking?
Half hour tops.
That work with you, Sean? Okay. Does that work with,
You want a motion?
Yep.
Motion to set the site visit for next Tuesday at 5.
Second.
have a motion and a second, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Could you mark out the corners of the building for us and the
Yes.
entranceways? Is there anything else you need, Sean?
I think, as long as we have a couple of days to turn the drawings around, we'll be all set
All
for
right.
that planning board meeting.
We'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
So you just need the building corners staked out? The office and the manufacturing?
I think so, and the entranceways,
Okay.
though they're kinda there, aren't they? Yeah,
Yeah, we'll get something there for you to look at.
Yep.
Absolutely.
How about the parking area? Would that be too difficult to do, the paved parking, or we could just, use the buildings to kind of cite it from that?
make it as easy as you can for these guys and me. That's all I got.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion, and a second to adjourn, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.